welcome to Core Discussions. This is our very first episode. We call ourselves The Core, and we're here to discuss many various topics, movies, sports, music, just whatever we feel like discussing at that point. My name is Phil. You could also call me Legacy. We're just a group of good friends that always want to do a podcast, so we chose why not. All right, I'm going to go around the group, let everybody introduce themselves. I'm going to go up to right above me, to the guy right above me with the beard and the youngest brother of the group.
Hey, I'm Vitamin
Youngest
J.
brother of the group.
Oh, you're talking apology.
I am Bobby. You can call me Bobby D3.
All right, next is his other brother with the Eagles behind him.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Max. You can't tell, but because Vitamin J is hidden, but we are triplets.
All right, going to the man with the Superman poster.
My name's Hunter, also known as Mountain because of my very impressive height. Yeah.
And lastly, the last brother. Not lastly, there's one more guy.
Gotcha. My name's Vitamin J. I'm the youngest of the three.
All right, and the man behind everything.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. Hope you're doing well. This is Eon Catan. Stay tuned for more details.
All right, so like I said before, we are a group of friends. We've just been doing this. As you can tell, there's, like I said, there are several brothers on here, all of them all related, and three of them are triplets. One of them, as you can see, you can't see his picture, but they do look alike. So, just to start things off, today we are going to do our very first ever podcast. It is the WWE Top 10 list. So, our top 10 favorite wrestlers of all time, based off whatever criteria we have. So, not the greatest, but just all of our favorites. Everybody sent me a list of their top 10, and I ranked them they put them in order from 1 to 10. If you got first place, you got 10 points. If you got last place, you got 1 point, and points accordingly. I added up off our list and came up with a combined top 10 of our favorite wrestlers of all time. So we are going to go ahead and get into it. So you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Okay, so our number 10 favorite wrestler, none other than the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels.
Hey.
Okay, now looking through this list, actually I had him ranked the highest because he was 5th on my list. So, kind of to just give you some insight of why I like Shawn Michaels so much. So, when it comes to WWE wrestlers, it's how much can you entertain me? Because I feel that is the main point of WWE. So, Shawn Michaels is one of the only wrestlers that could literally pick anybody off the street, could probably pick one of us, and wrestle us to a 5-star match. I think just his ability in the ring is just unparalleled to you could find anybody that you ever wanted. I think also with Shawn Michaels, the impressive part of him was also he was part of one of the greatest stables as well with D-Generation X and everything he did well. I think mic skills, wrestling ability, you think about him versus Undertaker both times, him versus Bret Hart, just all these iconic matches. That is why he's one of my favorites. I will go ahead and move it to as well Vitamin J, who had him actually 10th on his list, who didn't rank him as high. So Vitamin J, what do you got?
So, as you said, Shawn Michaels, great wrestler, one of the best of his generation and every generation, Mr. WrestleMania. I like Shawn Michaels a lot, but there are other. We'll get into why I had him 10th. But great wrestler. Took part in my opinion the best wrestling match of all time, WrestleMania 25. Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker. Like you said, he could wrestle anybody and putting him to a great match. There's a great match with a wrestler who's not so good, Marty Jannetty in 1993 on Raw. If you ever have a chance to watch that, he did a great match. Even before that, he could wrestle. Another great match of his is him versus Kurt Angle, WrestleMania 21. Great on the mic. Him and DX in the 90s was great. People love to hate him. That's probably they were pretty competitive with the NWO. Not as good as the NWO, but they were pretty good.
All right, Hunter, you also had him 10th on the list. So what do you got?
Yeah, well, if I were going on pure wrestling talent, I would probably have him a lot higher on my list. But I, we were really young when we first started wrestling, and I feel like I missed a good bit of his run from before he broke his back, and so I didn't really get to enjoy all that. But just based off my favorite wrestlers, I had him 10th just because, uh, I of course like the other 9 better, but. Uh, Shawn Michaels, like you said, Phil. I mean, he could wrestle a broomstick to a 5-star match. So I've always enjoyed his matches, but I just never connected with him as much as my other guys that I have on my list. Or in my retrospective watching of wrestling, I've liked other guys a little more than Shawn Michaels, but he's a great wrestler, no doubt.
And let me just add for clarification. Most of us started watching wrestling during the late Attitude Era, so we missed. Shawn Michaels got hurt, I believe, like '97, so we missed prime Shawn Michaels. But I mean, unless you watched WWE Network, we missed it. But so we pretty much started watching Shawn Michaels when he came back in 2002, till his career ended.
And I also will say there was that period, and this is a lot of like retrospect having to watch back. There was that period, especially like I feel after like the Golden Era and kind of like pre-Attitude Era, where it was kind of like Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels and that whole like rivalry, where I felt those two were kind of the faces at that time of WWE, and I think that's been an impressive part of his career. That he didn't just it wasn't just DX; it was even before DX where he was the face. I felt he was also part of the smart part of putting him in DX. It also elevated like Triple H's career as well, and he was kind of like the big star at that time, and also had another iconic match. I think just with how it rose another person that we might be speaking about with Stone Cold Steve Austin. When you look back to their WrestleMania main event with Mike Tyson as well as a special guest referee, I feel if Shawn Michaels is not at the level he is in the performer, it would have also hindered Stone Cold to propelling him to that era and DX in their original parts. Max, he was actually not on your list, so yeah. Now, not Shawn Michaels fan. You're the only one of us who did not have him anywhere in your top 10s. So, what's the deal?
Well, like Hunter and Vitamin J said, when Shawn Michaels came, or when we started watching, he was Commissioner Shawn Michaels. So we didn't get to see his main run. And when we have a top 10, Phil, somebody's got to not make the cut.
Unbelievable.
And may I say, before we move off Shawn Michaels, can we talk about how iconic that theme song was? I mean,
Go ahead.
Can we talk about how iconic the Sweet Chin Music is? That now everybody has to copy it.
true. I mean, no one does as well as he did. No one.
It's actually called the Super Kick when other people do it. He's Sweet
I
Chin
know.
Music. But I think even that, but Jacob, that is a good point because even just the excitement of when he's like stopping his foot down, getting you involved into the match, because that's what I look about with my favorite wrestlers. It's one thing like you can put up anybody to match, like, and there's been some great technical wrestlers out there. Spoiler alert, Bret Hart, not on my top 10 list. I was also kind of beyond his time, after his time when I really started watching it. But can you get me to care? Like, can you get me to invest in a match and legit care when you're wrestling? Like, there's some people who are very technically sound, but I could give two junks less when they wrestle. Like, I'm like, okay, cool, but can you get me to care about your character? And I think how he started off with the Rockers and then propelled himself, and even after he got his back surgery, like, still was able to perform on a great. Still able to perform. You think about Triple H versus HBK at SummerSlam, and that rivalry was great. Even him and Mr. McMahon, that whole saga before DX came back, them doing the crotch chops, them kind of like the whole hyping you up and getting you ready back for DX, and just everything he added to it.
And speaking of the back injury, he finished that match where he hurt his back, the casket match with The Undertaker. He finished that match, and if you watch it, I mean, you could tell like he hurt himself, but you can't tell like with how severe that back injury was, he was still able to finish the match. So that's kudos to him.
It's amazing how they can finish matches like that.
Back when men were men.
But like, if you look at the clip of him injuring himself when he gets flipped on the casket, you wouldn't think it'd be that bad. But he does hit it like right in the lower back, so it's pretty interesting how that severely hobbled him.
That was very impressive because I hurt my back. I'm out. I'm done. So anybody else got anything to say about Shawn Michaels? Bobby, you want to add anything? I know he was 7th on your list.
He was 8th on my list. But, outside that iconic theme song, because everybody knows as soon as you hear that song, you sing to it. Other than that, we cover all the bases with him. I'm ready for the next one.
If you haven't seen it, watch him versus The Undertaker. WrestleMania 25 and 26.
Okay, I was gonna say first. So you said the first one was better than the second one.
The first one's my preferred one, but they're both great.
First one's better.
I mean, what about his match with Ric Flair?
Yep.
True.
I mean, we could go over his whole WrestleMania list because you have Kurt Angle. Hell, even this match with Vince McMahon at WrestleMania was good. Obviously, the Bret Hart match. He had a good match with Diesel, and of course, Razor Ramon.
One match I'd like to pitch. It wasn't at WrestleMania, but I loved his 3 stages of hell with Triple H.
True.
And SummerSlam versus Hulk Hogan, him overselling the whole match made it very enjoyable.
Yeah, that's
Oh my
hilarious to watch him when like Hulk Hogan punches him, he like falls in the ring.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it and you want to learn how to oversell everything, you got to watch Hulk Hogan and Shawn Michaels.
Do you think that's where Dolph Ziggler learned to sell?
Absolutely.
Probably.
I mean, even him overselling Hulk Hogan because that should have been a dumb match, but still, it's like still hilarious, and you're like, yeah, it's actually pretty good. All right, so that's with Shawn Michaels. We're gonna go to number 9 on our list. Okay, so number 9 on our list, Shawn Michaels came in with 11 points off of our number 9. Is a very famous wrestler. Is also another famous wrestler. Unfortunately, this man left this earth many years ago, and it crushed us all deeply. He lied, cheated, and stole our way into our hearts. Eddie Guerrero. So, Bobby, you actually had him ranked the highest on your list. You had him ranked 5th on your list. So, I'll let you go with Eddie Guerrero.
I mean, first of all, his motto, I lie, I cheat, I steal. His creative way to end the match, like the one was Mr. Kennedy, where he pretended to hit the chair on the mat. I got Kennedy disqualified. Genius. When he unlaced his boot against Kurt Angle, that's one of the most iconic finishes. How he got out the angle lock.
WrestleMania.
And he brought passion. Like when you hear him speak, you could tell that he loved the business, and you could just tell he meant everything he said.
Very true. I'm gonna let Max go once again. Not on your list. I don't know why you hate this guy or what you're doing.
What's wrong with
yeah.
you?
The hipster.
Again, man, top 10. It's tough. But you're right. Eddie Guerrero was very charismatic. We didn't see much of his WCW days, but we loved his WWE run. And then him beating Brock Lesnar, we remember that. That was a huge shock to us, and we loved his whole title run. Didn't make my list.
All right.
I'm offended.
Mm-hmm. I'll go ahead and hit it off because I had him 10th on my list. I will also say he was one of those. I remember when he passed away because like some of the others I didn't really get. I wasn't a big fan until like kind of later posthumously. But the fact was when I really got back hugely into wrestling was I remember when he passed away and just how like I was a little crushed. Like he was about to win the World Heavyweight Championship. It was Eddie, you know. He had Viva La Raza, and a very important part. I think I'm going to let the Mountain speak on is how lovable he was, and how even as a heel, you still voted for it. You still wanted to root for him. Just quickly, just for those of you who are watching this that might not know what a heel is. So in wrestling, you have a good guy who's a face and a bad guy who's a heel. So a heel is supposed to be the person you're not rooting for. So Hunter, I'm going to kind of let you speak on that part about kind of how lovable he was even as a heel.
Oh man, I mean that's probably my favorite thing about him. I mean, he made just being a heel so cool, and he would do just heel things in the ring. Like you normally don't pull for the guy who hit someone with the chair and then like highs the chair. But it's the way Eddie did it, man. It was different. He, just really lived that mantra, a lot of cheeks still, and he just made it so cool. Like Max said, when Brock Lesnar, or excuse me, when Eddie Guerrero beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, for me, it felt like kind of like we all won the championship. We were waiting for him to win the belt for so long.
I want to throw a correction, but it wasn't WrestleMania. There was no way out.
You know what I meant, dang it.
I believe it was no way out.
Excuse me. I'm not a wrestling
Savant.
encyclopedia.
Hey, we are a fact-checking podcast, all right?
Okay, fair enough. But we enjoyed Eddie Guerrero for a good bit of his WWE run. Even when his Mamacita run, we enjoyed that a lot with China. He just, I don't know. He just made he was just a lovable heel. Really, he was. I'm not even sure if he was a heel, but he just made doing heel things. I don't know. A good guy be doing heel things, and he made it. Awesome.
No one was as creative at ending a match in a particular fashion than he was.
His the ways he would end a match, such as throwing a chair to the wrestler and then pretending he got knocked out. People still do that stuff today. It's just great. And then yeah, and then to add to the Brock Lesnar title win, I would add that's probably one of the more, in my opinion, one of the more iconic championship wins was him beating Brock Lesnar because at the time Eddie Guerrero wasn't a main eventer when he won the tournament to face Brock Lesnar, so a lot of people didn't take him seriously until he won, and then he had the great feud with JBL or Kurt Angle, then JBL. So we saw the prime of his run, and he was actually, before he died, he was having a really good storyline with Batista, and he was probably going to win the title in a triple threat right before he passed, unfortunately. Yeah. So I feel like we were robbed of at least a few more years of top tier Eddie Guerrero before he would have been on his way out. But one of the best wrestlers. Go ahead.
So at one point, it was rumored that him and Shawn Michaels were going to have a match at WrestleMania, and that would have been 5 stars no matter what.
If you want to watch a WCW match of his, I would recommend the Rey Mysterio Eddie Guerrero Halloween Havoc, I believe 1996 match. That was fantastic.
A banger.
I also liked when I talk about putting stars over, because remember that heel JBL, which I enjoyed. Again, he did it off of Eddie Guerrero, and if Eddie Guerrero was not to the point he was, JBL does not get pushed that far. We wouldn't have cared, but the fact he beat him, and even I remember JBL was talking about when he got inducted into the Hall of Fame, how much credit he was giving Eddie Guerrero, but also even some of the lines JBL was saying of making himself such a heel. Eddie Guerrero was the one giving him oh, you should say this, or oh, you should say this, to kind of push JBL. What was it, Texas Bull Rope match?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which was awesome, which was really not very bloody. Oh my gosh, very brought you back to a whole attitude, but still in the Ruthless Aggression era. Very amazing match. Even him with him and Rey Mysterio, that whole storyline. It does not work without Eddie Guerrero really just pushing it, selling it, and you really the whole dominant custody battle. That was also again really should not have worked, but just because of him, he was able just to really sell it, and the whole "I am your papi" that was hilarious. So I enjoyed it. Eddie Guerrero, one of the greatest. Unfortunately, left this earth too soon. So we're gonna move on.
Before you go on, can I add something?
Go ahead.
I cannot listen to "Hurt" by Johnny Cash still to this day without thinking about it.
Yeah.
He's yep.
And we all do remember his tribute after he passed. WWE, SmackDown, and Raw had the huge tribute. All those wrestlers, and like it was mentioned before, so many wrestlers Sasha Banks, which they mention at every single match she does. Yeah, every time. Just do all these tributes. The Frog Splash. He was one of the. Yeah. Well, it's him or RVD, because his
second place. Nothing wrong with it.
5 stars is a good one.
put that thing from anywhere. It doesn't matter where you are. But this is about Eddie Guerrero. But always the frog splash, the iconic move. Even the low rider going in to his match. That was an amazing point. So anybody else got anything else about Eddie Guerrero?
I just want to say a fun fact. Apparently, they have a daughter that does singing and dancing and also is a wrestler,
Yep.
which is really cool.
I don't know. He has one daughter who's married to another wrestler, Aiden English. I'm not sure if that's the one. I'm not sure how many kids he had, but yep. Also, watch his vignettes when he started Los Guerreros with Chavo and WWE. Pretty funny stuff.
Cool. So, next one. You guys ready for number 8 on our list?
Who is it?
Sure, Max
So,
didn't put
number-
him on the list.
Max did put this person. This is the first person Max actually put on the list.
Oh, how about
Jake,
that?
I'm going to let you talk about this one because he's one of your favorite wrestlers of all time. It is Goldberg. Goldberg. Goldberg.
I'm kind of mad that he was all the way at 8. I had him at 2. Yeah, Goldberg. I mean, obviously not the best ring technician, but in the terms of charisma and crowd reaction, he's one that's hard to top. I mean, I'm not sure if you can recreate what they did with Bill Goldberg anytime soon. They tried it with Ryback, but it didn't work out. But in terms of just what he could do, he could turn a 1-2 minute squash into something that had the whole crowd cheering. Loved it. Loved his streak. His first WWE run, not so great. He still has some decent matches. But the return against Brock Lesnar, everybody was shocked. He beat him in like a minute, 20 seconds. No one saw that coming. A definite shocker. Loved him. He was actually really good on promos when he came back to WWE. No one would have thought that Goldberg would have been good on promos, but in terms of just the charisma, the power, I mean, lifting up the Big Show when he was a giant for the jackhammer, amazing. Love Bill Goldberg. Love. If you missed it, it was something that was like a product of his time. You had to have been watching around that time to really understand why Goldberg was so popular. A lot of people nowadays kind of they criticize Goldberg for this and that, but you could kind of tell who actually was there for the rise of Goldberg and who wasn't. So,
All right. So, Bobby, you actually did not have a Bill Goldberg on your list. So,
It was number 11. He was number 11. Some guy got missed the cut, as Max would say. Top 10 list, somebody got missed the cut. I will say he had one of the most Banff entrances of all time. We know people knocking on his door. He gets let out by security, and then with the fireworks, when he inhales the smoke and breathes it out. If I'm in the ring, that's intimidating. I'll give him that. He's one of the most intimidating wrestlers of all time. And the best spear, by far. Roman Reigns, second place.
There's no debate.
Goldberg, best spear.
because he actually tackles you.
So, Hunter?
Oh, I didn't hear you say my name.
Yeah, you didn't on your list either.
What? Yeah.
Thank you.
Again, he, number 11, number 12-ish, but I love Goldberg. Love Goldberg. Just like Jacob was saying that, people like to give Goldberg a hard time because he wasn't the best ring technician or he couldn't do this or that. But I mean, there's different styles of wrestling. Not everyone's a Bret Hart. This guy's a powerhouse. He's a brute. He's gonna wrestle. He's gonna wrestle stiff, man. I love it. Him and Brock Lesnar, love those matches. He doesn't need to put on 5-star matches to get over. Clearly, he doesn't. He has more charisma than almost anybody out there now, and can sell out stadiums. And people want to criticize him because he can't do this flippy crap. But
He actually does have some
wrestlers now. But the wrestlers nowadays wish they could sell 1/10 of what Goldberg could sell. So anybody wanting to criticize Goldberg, then I don't know, man. You're missing out.
And he actually does like if people actually watch some of his matches, he actually does have some good wrestling matches. Like there's one with him and DDP, Hell in Havoc '98, I believe, and in my opinion, one of the best less than 5 minute match you'll see him Brock Lesnar WrestleMania the second one. So just a car crash match, but those are really entertaining sometimes.
So Eddie Guerrero had 13 points. Goldberg edged him out by 1 point with 14.
And I nailed him on the list. I had him right at 8.
Do you want to divulge and why he was 8?
Well, I mean, sure. I mean, they already said it. I loved his intensity, the power he had. But I want to touch on a moment that is one of the most iconic wrestling moments, I think, in WCW is when he, in the Georgia Dome, when he beat Hulk Hogan and the crowd popped. You'll never hear a crowd pop higher than that. But that moment there was an amazing moment, and just want to touch on that.
They shouldn't have gave it away for free.
No, they shouldn't have. You can't really talk of the story of Goldberg without mentioning that. And then he had his title reign was decent. They ended it in a very hokey way with losing to Kevin Nash with the cattle prod. But there are a lot of Goldberg moments that stand out, and there's a reason why people still talk about him, and people still will watch him even at his age.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite things about Goldberg, again, like when I go into favorites, like making me care. Remember when he came back I think it was 2015?
2016, something like that.
2015, 2016, and you just hear the music and the whole crowd goes, Goldberg, Goldberg, like the whole arena. And I know like there'll be some people who complain like, oh, they bring too many stars back. But the thing is, like, Goldberg you don't get that unless you got something. And that's part of wrestling. You have to have it, whatever it is. And Goldberg was one of those people that, as opposed to like Eddie Guerrero, HBK, who were just like very showy, can have these long matches, Goldberg had these compressed matches, but he just was a bruiser. That's it. I just want somebody who can just beat people up, who's huge and just can beat people up. And he just performed his spear, the jackhammer. You just get excited when you see it. The fear, the spear. I think just like we talked about Brock Lesnar and Goldberg, like I don't need a 5-hour match all the time. Sometimes give me a 5-minute exciting match, because I think when you always do like these hour-long matches for everybody, it just loses it loses its flair. Sometimes I just want a quick match, make it entertaining. You had several spears, a jackhammer, an F5, but it was so good in that little amount of time, which that's a very hard skill to do. And I don't think people give enough credit to, of like having an entertaining match in 3 minutes, boom, it was entertaining, and we're all like, oh my gosh, that was really good. Especially when he came back, because he was like 50 plus years old. Like, wrestling's hard. All right, so I think just his run, like everybody said, his first WWE run, WWE kind of made him to something he wasn't, but Goldberg was still, when he came back, he was that bruiser. He was actually what a lot of people wanted WWE to turn Roman Reigns into, if people don't remember that. Just kind of somebody who comes out there, whoops some people, and that's it. And that was his character. And you sometimes don't need an over-the-top character. You just need that, and that's very good to it. I'm going to let, if anybody else got anything else to say about Goldberg.
Yeah, I got one more. As Big E, the wrestler Big E, one of his favorite wrestlers is Goldberg, and he put it up perfectly. He said, you can have your 5-star matches, you can have your classics. Sometimes he just wants to see big men slapping meat, and that's what's...
Oh, my gosh.
And that's what Goldberg did. That's what Goldberg did. He said if he could clone a wrestler, he would clone Bill Goldberg, I think, like 5 times or something like that.
Oh my.
That's true. Oh, yeah, he was great. And like Bobby said, his entrance, like, come on. It's just great, coming through. You're just getting hyped. And then the fireworks at the end. It's great. All right, so we're going to go into our 7th greatest wrestler of all time. This person actually only had... Sorry, I gotta find it. This person actually had only 2 people vote for him, but one of those people put him very high on the list. The other one put him pretty well on the list. It is pretty amazing. I think he's kind of low. Well, he's about where I had him. This man is none other than the dead man, The Undertaker. Jacob, I'm going to let you take it again.
You said there was only 2 people that had the Undertaker on the list.
Everybody else, just disrespect you put.
He's so well known too.
I knew y'all would try to trigger me in this way. Well, I mean, what can you say about The Undertaker? He is the best gimmick of all time. You can't that gimmick on paper. That gimmick on paper, a dead Western mortician, sounds really, really dumb on paper, but he made it work. And Mark Calloway is probably the only person that could have made it work. The gimmick was great. The wrestling early in his career wasn't great, but that's because the character he played, he couldn't really put on a 5-star classic. He couldn't really actually start to wrestle until the feud with Bret Hart, because there's an interview where he says that he was actually appreciative of feuding with Bret Hart because he could actually show off his wrestling skill. But in my opinion, his best in-ring work was later in his career, about the time he was wrestling Shawn Michaels, so late 2000s. That was when he put the great work, and also Batista. The streak, there will never be something like the streak again. We saw one of the biggest moments in wrestling history in our lives was when Lesnar ended the streak. We didn't see it coming. We just assumed that he would kick out after he could take 10 F5s, but he would kick out of it. But he did it, and I was very shocked and upset. Still am. But no, I mean, he had it all. He was good on the mic, good wrestler, good gimmick. So I mean, there's really all you could say about The Undertaker. I could go on and on about The Undertaker.
I'm gonna step in here and not move to the losers that didn't put him on the list. I was the other person who put him. He was 6 on mine. He was number 1 on Jacob's. He came in at 15 points, so 1 point over Goldberg. Here was the thing about Undertaker to me. Like Jacob said, when you talk about gimmick, the gimmick is stupid. If you really look at it, it is a dumb gimmick. But he sold it, and he made you care. The fact that this guy, he's the dead man, and this guy comes back, I think that's just something to say for his ability, his charisma. Sometimes there's certain gimmicks that are just meant for people, and that was one that was meant for him. I gotta give him credit, though I didn't like this gimmick as much. When he turned into his second phase, when he came back as the American Badass, didn't like it as much, but was still pretty good gimmick. Still worked. He was, again, my least favorite Undertaker. Like many people will probably agree with me on that one. But then comes back again, back as the dead man, kind of was still able to reform himself. And I do have to give him credit, because I remember Undertaker was on this interview with Bill Simmons, where he even talked about the American Badass wasn't his favorite, but it was needed to have that little gap, because he felt the Undertaker gimmick was going to run out if he didn't switch it up a little bit. That's why he had to switch it up for just that time period. Comes back. You talk about Undertaker, you talk about the WrestleMania streak. He went for so many matches. I still remember his iconic matches where I remember we were all on our edges of our seat, kind of like, would they end the streak? Are they going to? When you look at Shawn Michaels hit him with 3 Sweet Chin Musics, or when he faced Triple H, Steel Cage? Shawn Michaels hits him with the Sweet Chin Music, Triple H then hits him with the Pedigree. You kind of were like, are they going to end the streak? Because it would have been 19-1 at that point. Just those great sells and over people talking about the streak and how important that streak was. How several wrestlers, even because of the respect they had for him, refused to end the streak. I believe several times they were asked to end the streak, but they didn't want to, because it was just such a momentous thing to go that many WrestleManias, not lose. I know to some people out there, yes, wrestling's fake. I got it. We got it. We know that.
Wait,
right?
what?
But
What?
yeah,
shocking.
Newsflash. It's fake. It's rigged. But just kind of, he still sold you on a match. He still has he's one of the most iconic wrestlers. His mic skills, like Jacob said, his in-ring ability improved as his career went on, which is kind of not always, which is kind of weird for most wrestlers, but still having those great moments of WrestleMania, having that gimmick that really stupid, and yes, we all know it. But even I look back to his graveyard match with AJ Styles that was recently. That was really good. Well done, WWE.
It was good, yeah.
And even in his older age, he's still like, yes, he's had some matches that were flops. Him versus Roman Reigns kind of sucked. Him versus Goldberg was too late. But I still think of some of his other ones that were really good. Him versus Cena, I still enjoyed. Triple H, all 3 times he faced Triple H at WrestleMania, both times with Shawn Michaels. Him and Batista's, but he still sold it. And his rest in peace. When you hear that music and see that the slowest entrance in the world, or those times where lightning comes down, and you see his return versus Kane when he returned as the Dead Man again. Great moment. It's constantly, honestly, probably one of my favorite matches of him, just because the build-up and everything of him and his brother Kane. I have always enjoyed Undertaker. I've liked his in-ring ability. The fact he did 2 very different gimmicks and still was able to make you care. Very hard to do. I'm gonna give the floor to Max and let him talk about why he disrespected the Undertaker so deeply and why he hates him so much.
I just want to say to start off, we've done 4 people. I've only had 1 on my list so far, so my list is getting destroyed. But Undertaker, I mean, look, y'all like him, he's good. I was just more a fan of the other guy, which I'm sure we'll talk about later.
That's an honorable mention.
No, man, he's not on my list. So I don't know if we'll talk about him. I don't understand because I mean nothing will pop a crowd better than when the gong hits, and I don't understand. I'm offended.
No, there's one person that can pop a crowd more than him, but we'll go to that later.
Yeah, he was good, you know, just not top 10, just not top 10 material. I'm sorry.
Didn't make the cut.
And he's still relevant. When the lights went out in the NBA game the other day, one of the top trends on Twitter was The Undertaker because people were.
Look, Jay, I had him at 13th. It happens, you know.
That's funny that you had The Undertaker at 13th.
It's natural fit for him.
Won a title from Sid.
Mm-hmm. All right,
Thank you, Mr. Encyclopedia.
All right, so we're gonna go into our next guy. This is gonna be the 6th favorite wrestler, coming in with 18 points, so 3 points over the Undertaker. I believe this person was ranked the highest by me, but Hunter, I'm gonna let you take this person. You ranked him 2nd highest. None other than the Cerebral Assassin, the Game, Triple H.
Oh man, I love Triple H, man. I mean, where to start with this guy? I mean, such a legendary career. I mean, part of probably the 2. I mean, probably the 2 biggest factions in WWE history: DX and Evolution. I mean, just there right off the bat, he's gonna make the top 10. But his work as a heel, oh my god! I mean, he's one of the best heels in WWE history. I mean, just him. I mean, attitude error, ruthless aggression. I mean, he just killed it. I mean, and had a GOAT finisher, the pedigree. Oh my gosh! I mean, what more can I say? And also, every single theme song this guy had, banger. And all of his WrestleMania entrances, bangers. I mean, I don't know what you want me to say, Phil.
All right, that's good. Also, the thing he does, and if you haven't ever watched Triple H, you got to see his opening. He does this thing where he puts the water in his mouth, spits it up in the air, and keeps enough water, and then spits it out again. I don't know if you've ever tried that. He says,
That's impressive.
Natural. I've tried that. I can't do it. I spit out all the water, and it also doesn't go up as nice. It doesn't work. It doesn't happen. Max, I'm gonna let you go. He was actually 6th on your list, if I'm reading this right. Yeah, 6th on your list.
Yep, I nailed this one too. But the thing with Triple H is that I know a lot of people give him a hard time for his quote reign of terror, 2003 to 2005. but I thought his heel work. I mean, his feud with Cactus Jack is legendary. He's 14-time world champion. The only thing you can say about Triple H, I think, is the downfall is like his promos can be long-winded, but even then, he's still not bad. But I just thought his ring work, he could sell with anybody. I think his ring work is pretty underrated as far as all-time status is concerned. I gotta say, as far as entrance theme, I think I like his first one when he was on the main run, his top
My
run.
Time?
With now, I'd like that one better than the other one.
No, he was good. I had him actually. I ranked him the highest. I had him fourth on my list. Again, you talk about one of the greatest heels of all time. You're talking about Triple H. Has several nicknames, whether it's the Cerebral Assassin, Triple H, or the Game. Yes, you can talk about all the backstage work. Him, Shawn Michaels. You can kind of talk about if you're into wrestling, you'll know about sometimes they did mess over people's careers, but also even as he's also one of the creators of NXT, which many people rave about, but yet they hate him and he doesn't push talent. But whatever, that's a conversation for another day. As a wrestler, Triple H entertains. His in-ring work, very committed to the craft. I always remember, and this is kind of a joke between us, is that elbow at Survivor Series when he knocks out the ref. I mean, like,
Perfect.
precise. You talk
Yeah.
about elbow. I mean, that man did it. Like, it. You know, you do it. You're gonna do it. You better do it right.
Survivor Series with the Authority versus Team Cena. If you want to know.
Flawless.
You go watch it. That is an elbow, people. He is constantly great, amazing promos, no matter what. I will agree, there are a couple times they're a little bit long-winded, doesn't need to talk, but he was really a great heel. Came up with one of the greatest factions, two of the greatest factions WWE has ever seen, D-Generation X, as well as Evolution. Both was huge creators in that. He did have some. I will criticize. He did have the whole like where he won the world heavyweight title like 50,000 times. That got a little bit boring and annoying. I got it, but it also he built it again to when Batista won it. It was so great because Triple H finally lost it, and that whole run with him versus Batista, kind of pushing Batista up to that was so big because of how big Triple H was. Him versus Undertaker. Any of the WrestleManias, very iconic. I think the Authority and having that whole heel run, him and Daniel Bryan, the WrestleMania 30, he built it up, and I think he was one. Again, this goes to selling a match and really making me care. When people were pulling for Daniel Bryan, it's because Triple H was calling him a B-plus player and really making you root against him. That's why you wanted Daniel Bryan to win. He sold that to people, and that is just invaluable. Very smart man. As you know, married to Stephanie McMahon. Probably going to be he's going to be running WWE soon with him and his wife. Very much dedicated to the business. Amazing run. Multiple-time champion. I don't think there's enough that can be said about Triple H, the game. The pedigree is an amazing move. Bobby, and I'm going to let you kind of go ahead from here because, Bobby, you and Jacob both did not have him on your list.
Oh my
Well,
god!
I feel like Max now. I don't have people on my list, I feel like Max now. But it doesn't make the cut. I will say with Triple H, you can never question his toughness. When he tore that quad off the bone and still finished match, not only that, he took the walls of Jericho. This is a submission hold that will
Still cut
really
the
hurt
wall.
the leg on the announce table with the torn quad. You can't deny that man's toughness. And then when he returned to, I believe it was Madison Square Garden, that crowd reaction, probably one of the top 10 pops of all time when he returned from that injury. I'll give him that he is one of the greats of all time. I had him at 12. I would never deny his greatness.
Jacob?
Yeah, okay, so I like and I have issues with Triple H at the same time. The Reign of Terror, there were good parts about it, and honestly, without the Reign of Terror, you wouldn't have gotten to the point where he lost it to Goldberg. But I can never get over him beating Booker T at WrestleMania 19, I believe. I can't get over that. Booker T should have won. even if it was like just for like one pair of view and you give it back to Triple H, he still should have won at WrestleMania. I don't think there was any excuse for having Booker T lose that match.
Yeah, I'll agree with you.
Another issue I had was when they were doing the Summer Punk. Triple H and CM Punk had a match, and Triple H won over. I just don't see any reason why Triple H had to go over in both of those scenarios. And I would say that Sting should have won at WrestleMania. But
No,
so,
no.
this is obviously not 100% Triple H's fault. But there's just some things that I think about. Triple H's promos can be good. Just a lot of times he said it takes a long, like you say, it's a long way. It takes a lot of time to get across what he could say in like half, like in 2 minutes, what he does in 10 minutes. I remember when during the Reign of Terror, he would always open Raw with like a 15-minute promo, and it was just the most irritating thing as a kid watching it. But that also speaks to how good he was as a heel. People love to hate him for multiple reasons, because he was a good heel and people just didn't like the spot he was in. People didn't think he deserved a spot, so that wasn't the reason why people got mad at him. But of all the people that I have on my list, the people I have on the list, I think are easily better than Triple H, so that's why I have him over. He's not even the best. Like, if I had to do a list of top heels, he probably wouldn't even be top 5.
Wow.
Ooh, big words.
Respect.
Big words from Jacob. Big words, not a top 5.
Maybe we'll have to do that list so I can actually put pin
we
the
probably will. And we can revisit. I will also say, no, he did not deserve to beat Sting, mainly because I was the only one of you guys who put down Triple H beating Sting, because I kept telling you Triple H ain't losing to Sting. But that was also a really cool match. NWO comes out, DX comes out. I remember the crowd popping for both of those.
And I speak to how the NWO coming out didn't make any sense when Sting was feuding with the NWO the whole time in WCW.
Reason.
If it was like the Wolfpack, that would have made sense because Sting was a member of the NWO Wolfpack. But yeah, it was still cool to see the NWO and DS coming out, and then you had Kevin Nash faking like he injured his quad. That was pretty funny, but still, I was like, when the NWO came out, I was like, oh, they're gonna beat up Sting, but then they helped him, so I was like, that makes no sense to me. But
It was just get DX the two greatest.
it was to pop the crowd, and it worked. He had to do all the stuff they did in that match because Sting was so old at that time. He can't really wrestle just a singles match to a good match. He had to do all the extracurricular stuff. But still, Sting should have won. But thinking back on it, of course he wasn't going to win because he's WCW, and Vince always wants WWE to go over. Now, I don't know Vince obviously, but that's just my thinking.
Well, you don't have him on speed dial.
Well, a lot of people do not like to assume Vince does these things like they know him. So I'm just going to say that's my theory.
I'll say.
I asked on Triple H.
Yes,
I
did
love an underrated moment I think everyone should look up for Triple H to show us how much he loves wrestling is look up his speech to the wrestlers in the first year of Tough Enough. An excellent watch on YouTube.
True.
Love it.
Yeah, and the wrestlers nowadays, they get their lovely Triple H finger point picture once they win the title.
That is true. It's a badge of honor these days.
Oh.
I think there are some flaws with Triple H, but still amazing wrestler, done a lot for the business. One of the I gotta say at least top 10 greatest heels of wrestling just performed, and you're gonna get something good with the game when he comes out. All right, so we're gonna move on. Unless anybody else got any other words. Ian, you got anything about Triple H?
No.
I want to add one. If you were to recommend a Triple H match, which one would you recommend?
Undertaker WrestleMania.
I think him, Shawn Michaels, SummerSlam was really, or him versus my favorite. I think it's also because of the moment. My favorite is Triple H versus Undertaker. It was supposed to be once in a lifetime or whatever. Last time you'll ever see it, Steel Cage. Or was it Hell in a Cell? Steel Cage.
It was Hell in a Cell. No, it was Hell in a Cell.
That's Steel Cage earlier. My apologies.
Mania was Braun and Shane, and the Steel Cage. That's the only. I think the only time before that was Hogan and Bundy. I think they made a point of that. Yeah, that was like the
Definitely
second.
helped. But yeah, that was also Shawn Michaels special guest referee, or even the year before. Even the year before was still really good, but I just think those are probably some of my favorites.
And then did anyone mention the Austin Triple H 3 Stages of Hell match? Great match. Check it out.
That was really good. All right. Let's go into the next one. Oh, I'll also give Triple H his factions lasted for a very long time because that DX run was a long time. And you see WWE factions nowadays, they do not last that many years. Where you keep caring, you start getting annoyed and bored of them after a while. That DX ran for a long time. I mean, throughout the whole Attitude Era, which is very impressive. That's not an easy thing to do.